These are the stories of 4 soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice. Afghanistan, the 21st of June, 2006. Jared Christopher Monti was leading a mission gathering intelligence when his 16-man patrol was attacked by as many as 50 enemy fighters. On the verge of being overrun, Sergeant First Class Monti quickly directed his men to set up a defensive position behind some cover. He then called for indirect fire support, accurately targeting the rounds upon the enemy who had closed to within 50 meters of his position. Whilst directing fire, Sergeant First Class Monti engaged the enemy with his rifle and grenade, successfully disrupting an attempt to flank his patrol. Sergeant First Class Monti then realized that one of his soldiers was lying wounded in the open ground between the advancing enemy and the patrol's position. With complete disregard for his own safety, Sergeant First Class Monti twice attempted to move from behind the cover of the rocks into the face of relentless enemy fire to rescue his fallen comrade. Determined not to leave his soldier, Sergeant First Class Monti made a third attempt to cross open terrain through intense enemy fire. On this final attempt, he was mortally wounded, sacrificing his own life in an effort to save his fellow soldier. Sergeant First Class Monti's selfless acts of heroism inspired his patrol to fight off the larger enemy force. For his sacrifice, he received the Medal of Honor posthumously. Afghanistan, January 25, 2008. While conducting a combat reconnaissance patrol through the Gowardesh Valley, Staff Sergeant Miller and his team engaged a force of 15 to 20 insurgents occupying prepared fighting positions. Staff Sergeant Miller initiated the assault by engaging the enemy positions with his vehicle's turret-mounted automatic grenade launcher, while simultaneously providing detailed descriptions of the enemy positions to his command, enabling effective, accurate close air support. Following the engagement, Staff Sergeant Miller led a small squad forward to conduct a battle damage assessment. As the group neared the small, steep, narrow valley that the enemy had inhabited, a large, well-coordinated insurgent force ambushed the team, assaulting from elevated positions. Exposed and with little available cover, the patrol was totally vulnerable to enemy rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapon fire. As point man, Staff Sergeant Miller was at the front of the patrol, cut off from supporting elements and less than 20 meters from enemy forces. Nonetheless, with total disregard for his own safety, he called for his men to quickly move back to covered positions as he charged the enemy over exposed ground and under overwhelming enemy fire in order to provide protective fire for his team. While maneuvering to engage the enemy, Staff Sergeant Miller was shot in his upper torso. Ignoring the wound, he continued to push the fight, moving to draw fire from over 100 enemy fighters upon himself. He then again charged forward through an open area in order to allow his teammates to safely reach cover. After killing at least 10 insurgents, wounding dozens more, and repeatedly exposing himself to withering enemy fire while moving from position to position, Staff Sergeant Miller was mortally wounded by enemy fire. His extraordinary valor ultimately saved the lives of 7 members of his own team and 15 Afghanistan National Army soldiers. Staff Sergeant Miller's heroism and selflessness above and beyond the call of duty and at the cost of his own life are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Army. Iraq, June 1, 2007. Staff Sergeant Atkins was serving as a squad leader with Delta Company in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Whilst manning a static observation post in the town of Abu Samak, Iraq, he was notified that 4 suspicious individuals, walking in 2 pairs, were crossing an intersection not far from his position. Staff Sergeant Atkins immediately moved his squad to intercept them. Once they'd caught up to the men, one of the individuals began behaving erratically, prompting Atkins to disembark from his patrol vehicle and approach to conduct a search. 2 individuals from the group responded belligerently toward Staff Sergeant Atkins, who then engaged the individual he had intended to search in hand-to-hand combat. He suddenly noticed the insurgent was reaching for something under his clothes. Staff Sergeant Atkins immediately wrapped him in a bear hug and threw him to the ground, away from his fellow soldiers. Maintaining his hold on the insurgent, he pinned him to the ground, further sheltering his patrol. The insurgent then detonated a bomb strapped to his body, killing Staff Sergeant Atkins instantly. In this critical and selfless act of valor, Staff Sergeant Atkins acted with complete disregard for his own safety, saving the lives of the 3 soldiers who were with him and gallantly giving his life for his country. He received the Medal of Honor posthumously for his incredible courage that day. Private First Class McGinnis distinguished himself by acts of gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty while serving as an M250 caliber machine gunner in combat operations against an armed enemy in Adamiyah, northeast Baghdad, Iraq, on December 4, 2006. That afternoon, his platoon was conducting combat control operations in an effort to reduce and control sectarian violence in the area. While Private McGinnis was manning the M250 caliber machine gun, a fragmentation grenade thrown by an insurgent fell through the gunner's hatch into his vehicle. Reacting quickly, he yelled, "Grenade!" allowing all 4 members of his crew to prepare for the grenade's blast. Then, rather than leaping from the gunner's hatch to safety, Private McGinnis made the courageous decision to protect his crew. In a selfless act of bravery, in which he was mortally wounded, Private McGinnis covered the live grenade, pinning it between his body and the vehicle and absorbing most of the explosion. Private McGinnis's gallant action directly saved 4 men from certain serious injury or death. Private First Class McGinnis's extraordinary heroism and selflessness at the cost of his own life went above and beyond the call of duty. For the ultimate sacrifice and for saving the lives of his team, he received the Medal of Honor posthumously.